Have you ever wondered how public speaking can become a powerful personal path to transformation and help you create a profound impact in the world? Welcome to the Accelerate Ascension Summit, where we elevate awareness, magnify your message, and monetize your mission. I'm Dr. Katja Rusanen, your host. Joining us today is Jonathan Bender, who has helped thousands of coaches, healers, and leaders become confident and authentic speakers who inspire and move audiences. With 28 years of experience, he blends the professional speaking skills, performance techniques, and personal growth to transform nerves into dynamic presence. Welcome, Jonathan. I'm super excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And before we dive into your talk, let me ask you, let's dive into a little bit of the personal path. As someone who supports transformational speakers in catalyzing their audience awakening, have you experienced a particular event in your own life that sparked your personal awakening and got you to do what you do today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. So I started on the spiritual path at a fairly young age, when I was 14, and this really sprung out of a lot of years of a painful childhood, of being bullied for many years, of having an unsupportive family environment, despite my parents' best efforts. It was not a healthy home at the time, and so I was very dissociated, out of my body, and out of my power as well, and did not have a sense that I had a particular voice. And a few things happened when I was 14. So first, I joined my high school speech and debate team and ended up doing a lot of speaking. I wasn't good or anything, but I really liked it. And started then doing all the competitive speaking, and then started doing theater. And I did that for, it was kind of like the start of the outer skills that I built. And the nice thing about that is it helped me find a level of kind of self-expression and freedom that I didn't feel in my regular life, which went on for some time until I did a much deeper degree of personal growth to be able to have that permission to be able to really to share myself as well in life. But the other thing that happened was that I started meditating when I was 14. And that one day in English class, I looked up, and this kid who was giving a presentation, I was seeing his aura. And I found that I was able to see energy. Soon I realized that I was a healer, and I could work with energy and be able to heal very intuitively without even being trained in techniques, although I did have other types of training, and since then have done quite a lot of work in different types of energy practices. But then the next year when I was 15, I started channeling, and to be able to have like direct communication, to be able to share wisdom, have that flow through me, which is a big foundation for my coaching practice as well, because I'm able to bring in deep wisdom, not just technique, to look at what if someone really needs to be able to transform and to see their true essence. And so this became a foundation for my life. By the time I was 18, I had a deep, deep calling of knowing that I was here to be of service to humanity. And though it honestly surprised me that I've been doing it through coaching public speaking, I really see this as a vehicle for transformation, which is what we're all about, both in terms of how I bring my voice and how I help others to shed off false identities and to let their true essence shine through. And that's what I'm very delighted to be here today to talk about.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey as well. I'm sure that adds that personal connection level, because I love always stories and how we got to do what we do. So now I'm even more eager to hear more about your presentation, the public speaking as a path of transformation, where the audience will learn about how to transform nerves into confidence and awaken and enliven your presence so you can create the impact you are here for. And I feel this is such a key presentation in this summit, as I know so many healers and coaches and light workers out there who have that beautiful, powerful calling in their heart, but then they struggle to share it. So I am super excited about this presentation. So, and I'm sure our audience is too. So this stage is now yours, Jonathan.
Thank you. So I would like to start off with a poem. I'm also a poet, and also since about the age of 13 or so, and spoken word poet as well. And I'd like to share something that is called Your Roar is Required. And for this, you're welcome to look at my image or just simply close your eyes and take it in. Dear sensitive souls, dear introverts and empaths, dear secret bearers of burden, dear wearers of brave faces, dear you who forced yourselves to smile and speak, dear you who hide and peek past curtains, dear social media lurkers, dear ambitious aspirants and starry-eyed seekers, your roar is required. Your vociferous voice is valued. Your potent presence is petitioned. You do not have to be certain. You do not have to be loud. You need not bellow over the blatherings of bosses and bullies. We simply ask for your heart and your courage, your vulnerability and your strength, your love and your fire to open further toward their fullness, to be with us, to share your roar, not deafening. Speak to us from your soul, voluminous in resonance and presence. Change me. Let me feel your voice, bear witness to your light, be illuminated by your brilliance, and as you progress on your path, vibrantly speaking your way into radiance, you inspire my wholeness too. Thank you for your sacred lion thunder. So I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and notice how you feel inside, how that hit you, what it calls forth. Maybe excitement, maybe insecurity. And to step into this moment of knowing that your voice matters. That when we shine our light, when we share our voice, we become the vehicle for the transformation that we wish to see in the world, and which I think a lot of us often feel a level of disempowerment, seeing all of the terrible things that are happening in the world, all the atrocities and the pain and the strife and the conflict, and don't feel like we can do a whole lot about that. And it's not that any one of us has to be the savior per se. It's that each of us steps forth and begins to create a small degree of transformation in our own way. And when we do this, whether or not we are consciously connected with others who are doing that, we start to create a web of transformation and to become part of the solution and to be able to usher forth in the world the change that we all so desire. And so that's what we're here talking about today, is how to become a better vehicle for transformation. So we're going to recontextualize public speaking. And by the way, I'm not going to be using slides today. I do use them in certain presentations, and today that my desire is to simply be with you, to have you feel and tune in. And the invitation is that you allow yourself to be with me. And if you're able to put anything else aside and to just sit and take some nice deep breaths and to just notice how it feels and affects you. I work to embody my own work, of course, and that speaking is also transmission. And the more that we can actively participate in that, the more that we have the ability to absorb those energies and to be able to learn more, not just from a cognitive level, but from an energetic perspective. So we're recontextualizing public speaking, and often it's seen from different types of uh, perspectives. So you might think of it as something that you should be able to do, or maybe something you feel like you're pretty good at, or you have a lot of fear of, or we think, oh, I could use this to sell my services, or maybe you want to do a TED Talk or a keynote, or even be a highly paid speaker. And there's all these different ideas around that. And we might even see a speaker as kind of an identity label. So, oh, I'm not a speaker, or I am a speaker, or I want to be. And instead, we are going to look at it as a path of transformation, where we are both addressing your transformation, which I'll talk more about in a moment, as well as how you can serve as a catalyst for your audience's transformation as well. So some things I will be going through today are the spiritual dimension of speaking, the energetics. I've developed a body of work called the energetics of expression, what is happening on the energetic level while you are speaking, both within yourself and how it affects the audience, and we'll dip into that a bit. And also a very tangible skill set that you need to learn to become a far more powerful and transformational speaker, and to use speaking to create change, to grow your impact, and maybe even your work. It is a very valid and beautiful thing to share our wisdom, our light, our knowledge, our expertise, and have that bring in people who would like to work with us more, so that you are not a well-kept secret. And I just want to go back. You heard my story a little bit at the beginning, but I've been on this path for a very long time, since I was a teenager. And along that way, it's been 2 graduate degrees in communication and theater. I'm also a professional theater director, actor, writer, and found that the technologies that performers need also apply to us in our lives. By technologies, I mean how to find a deep level of presence, of self-expression, of confidence. And that when we are able to embody that and bring that forth, we are not just a performer per se, but we are allowing ourselves to unfold past old habits of performing. So old habits of performing to be accepted, the way we think that we should act, so that we are not rejected, and ways that we have been conditioned throughout our lives for the stages of the world to walk through them. And sometimes we don't want to get on stage, we just want to hide out. And sometimes we take it, but it feels forced. And instead, we want to look at how to let your essence truly unfold. So let's talk about where you might be right now. There could be a few different places. So perhaps you have a message to share, something you deeply care about, that you want to get out there, but you are afraid to share it because you don't know if you'll be rejected or judged or trolled online with all of the terrible things that people unfortunately do say. So there might be some fear there. You might have a calling to be an agent of change, but you aren't sure of your message or where to start. You might even be feeling invisible and unseen. And yet I found this often results from hiding out, from not sharing your gifts out of that fear. Or you might be speaking, but you feel forced. It doesn't feel like it comes from your essence. Or maybe you do it, but it's kind of inconsistent. And all of these things could be transformed. And it's important because, as I said, the world needs your gifts and your light. Now, your words matter, but honestly, on a deep level, it's about sharing your light. Now, let's talk about this in a very kind of traditional sense. When we talk about your light, we also can refer to it as nonverbal communication, which is your body language, how you use your voice, and that is 50 to 80% of your communication. There's a miscited study that people sometimes say it's 93%. That's not actually true. It was a misunderstanding of a study that people just keep citing, but it is 50 to 80%, which means we focus so much on our words, but people are incredibly attuned to everything else. Now, what's actually happening with that nonverbal communication? Where does it derive from? It comes from what I will loosely call your training. Now, a training could be a public speaking training, but training could just simply be how we have become habituated in our lives to express ourselves or not to. So that habit could be muscle tension or self-doubt, and it kind of becomes closed off, and maybe there's body language things or hiding out or things that convey different things. Like, for example, you might have a tight TMJ area and just be kind of like talking like this, and it's kind of a physiological symptom of being closed down, which also closes off your energy. So when we start to transform some different aspects, which I'll get into a little more detail later, but including your body and your voice, it starts to open up your energy. It allows that to flow through you more. And so people are also noting on a level your light, your energy, how that flows through you, how it is coming to them, how do they feel it? And are you performing? Or are you transmitting? Are you deeply connecting? So let's talk about a few reasons of why or how this energy gets kind of blocked off. So in a word, well, one word for it is trauma. And I also just call it conditioning. It's the things that happen in our lives that cause us to contract, to wall off our energy, to close down. And it could be something that happened when you were a child, or who knows where it was from or when. It could be something that is ancestral. It could be not even from this life. And all of these things condition us to kind of be closed down and shut. And what that looks like in kind of a practical psychological framework is trauma responses. So some of them that you may be more familiar with: fight, flight, and freeze. So you may have to go to a situation and you want to fight and you're not fully present and open because you have to defend yourself to be safe. By the way, the inner critic is the fight response turned inward toward yourself. At least that's how I see that. You might flee, take off, run away, which also could look like simply not showing up. There's freeze response, and this is most typical for public speaking, where you get up to speak or even you think about that, and lots of things are happening in the body. There could be shaking or dry mouth or flushing or your heart beating really fast or not being able to think clearly because the blood is flowing away from the prefrontal cortex to the survival parts of the brain. And that freaks people out because then they doubt their own capacity to just handle the situation when they need to go to speak. You might find yourself in fawn or pleasing response as another habit, pattern of behavior. And then that what translates to, oh, I have to say the right thing to the audience or they're going to reject me. I'm very familiar with that one from my own past, and to be able to really speak what's true for us. And another one is collapse, also called faint or flop, which is we just kind of don't even have the will. So these are trauma responses, and they show up in that they're habituated responses or training per se through our lives, even though it very likely wasn't intentional, that stops us from being able to show up and to shine our light and to share. So these are patterns of absence or of contraction. Either we're just not there, kind of absent, or we're just contracted and we're shut down. So what we're looking for overall on the energetic level is to move from this place of contraction to openness, to let the light shine through you, your light and the divine light, light of the earth. And this is more than just your fifth chakra. It's more than just the communication aspect. It's all of you. It's you residing in your power, connected to the earth and to spirit, to source. And the more you become an open vehicle, not just in your energy, but in your body and in your voice, and you understand that, then you start to incredibly inspire so many more people because they just feel you. They may not even know why, but someone will be compelled to work with you. I remember days, I remember having a very bad day quite a number of years ago, and I was on the lawn when I used to live in Colorado, outside the farmer's market, and I was not feeling so good. And someone walked over to me and started talking. I think she was kind of a friend of a friend, and we were chatting, and then she just said, "What do you do? Whatever you do, I want to work with you." And I was like, "Are you serious? I feel like crap right now." But apparently I had enough training. This is probably a good, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, that they were inspired. And I wouldn't call myself something special because of that, but I'm grateful that I'd had a lot of training in terms of speaking, performance, and spiritual work where that could happen. And if that's ever happened to you, I'm curious about that, that it is possible, that more likely in a good state, people just are curious. They want to know, what do you do? How can I work with you and be inspired? And that's because your light is shining. Now, what I want to say is that this work is not an entire work around healing trauma. It's great to do other modalities for that. I do a lot of work about the inner transformation as well as outer skill set. But I look at it as more than healing. It's called wholing. My work, my business is called WholeSpeak. It's how to become more whole and express all of who you are. It's unifying fragmented parts of yourself so that you can truly let your entire essence express. Now, also, this is more than just speaking your truth. I have some mixed feelings about speaking your truth, that phrase. We hear it a lot because, on one hand, a lot of people are holding back and they're not really sharing their essence and who they are. And it's good to be able to step into that. However, I find that often when someone decides to speak their truth, it is after they have been doing a lot of withholding. And it kind of comes out with a little bit of fight response. It's like, here it is, and tell me, here it is. But people usually, one, don't connect when they're doing this. There's a lack of connection, and that can strike people the wrong way. And second, I've never heard someone say, well, I was just speaking my truth, and then turn to the other person and say, and what's yours? And interestingly, as a speaker, your job is not just to impart, it's to connect. It's to receive the people to whom you are talking, even if you're speaking on a video. How do you tap into them and connect with them and speak to them in a powerful way? So we want to be very skillful. So let's transition now and get very tangible about the skill set that it is very crucial for you to develop. And I'm going to talk about 5 different areas for you to work with. So number 1 is this aspect of nonverbal communication, of body language and vocal power. So in one term, you might think of this as just being relaxed. And there are a lot of things that I teach around facial expressions and like how to gesture, but this is also a foundation of being relaxed and just being open. Is that if we're closed off again in some way with the arms crossed or even just a lot of tension, is that we're closing off our ability to connect with the audience as well as to be able to transmit. And so one thing that you can do right now is if you just take some nice deep breaths, and you might do a few stretches, and then just kind of wiggle. It's not just about activating the musculoskeletal system. My work is very somatically based, so I can geek out on that, but it's about being really relaxed. So if you take some nice deep breaths, and as you do, just kind of fall down a little bit. You might shrug your shoulders up high to your ears and then drop down. Again, and then holding the breath, and then on a sigh, release. And you can let yourself begin to relax, perhaps even to slouch down in your chair. No one will ask you to slouch today or even this year besides me. and just letting out all of the tension and holding that you have. And as you relax, see if you can find a way back up to sitting or standing if you were, with as little muscular engagement as possible. And as you take a deep breath, this becomes the foundation for your presence, for your expression. And it's not that you want to be overly kind of saggy or floppy. It's that we want to have structure to stand and to move in a powerful way, but while be totally relaxed. And this is one of the keys to talking about confidence I'll get to in a little bit too. The relaxation is the foundation for your body language and for that opening and transmitting, but it's also the foundation for your voice. So a lot of people have a voice that is artificially high. They may think it's their real voice. And sometimes when we go to speak, when we're uncomfortable, our voice gets even higher because there's more tension. And that's not your true voice, as you can begin to drop down to actually start to speak from your heart and from your power chakra and your solar plexus with your breath, and to find a level of resonance. And when it is resonating more in your body, it actually begins to resonate in other people. That resonates in them. The vibration, you become more of a vibratory chamber, and then it resonates in them as well. And as you start to find this level of expression in your body and voice, you start to have a level of joy and play. Now, for those who want to take really advanced speaking work, there's a higher level of self-expression, which I call becoming a dynamic speaker, where we utilize more performance techniques and utilizing pitch, tempo, volume variation, pauses dynamically, and enunciation variation, and more, so that you learn how to capture or recapture your audience's full attention in a way that's like joyful, where you understand the dynamics. And every different dynamic, by the way, affects your audience differently. So one example of this on the energetic level is that pitch variation. When you drop down into your deeper resonance, you are dropping down into your core, into your power, into the lower chakras, and it grounds it into the earth. And when you go up higher, it uplifts the energy. It makes it more exciting, full of possibility. And being able to do both is important. So ultimately, variation is the key to keeping your audience's attention, because it moves the energy in a lot of different ways. And there are a lot of speakers that 10 minutes through their talk, they start to lose the audience because they're speaking on one energetic channel, they're not moving it. Eventually, it kind of entrains the audience to that. So this is not the first and most important thing to do. First, we want to have you have a strong foundational speaking presence, and that we're going to talk more about those details as we continue the next few minutes. But then we want to be able to let you know how to work with the energy through advanced speaking styles and how to move that energy and move your audience more. So that's body language and vocal power. Number two, charisma and presence. I think of these as the yin and the yang, two sides of the same coin, where charisma is the yang. It is how you act. It's the outer way of being, which is really reflecting who you are. And it's not just like trying to be charismatic with some idea of that. It's that charisma is about you truly being yourself and bringing all of you out, and not trying to act too professional, although there are, of course, certain etiquette things to do in different situations. But overall, we want to see your light and you to be you, and presence, which on stage people often think you have or you don't, but those of us on the spiritual path know that presence is something that we want to continue to cultivate. However, a lot of people have that on the meditation cushion, but not around other people. And it's crucial for it to be something that you can do to walk through your life, and not performing it, but truly feeling it and being it, so that you feel more present and alive in the world, in your life, to your loved ones, to your friends, and your work. And that inspires, and other people feel you as you feel this more aliveness of the pleasure and honor of being on this earth, even amidst everything that it entails. So presence is being physically present in your body, being emotionally activated and open and alive, mentally focused and present, and you can enhance your energetic presence as well so people feel you even when you don't say a word. So we want to cultivate those. And by the way, the first exercise to do to start growing that is that full relaxation. And I find that presence is often grown through the third area, which is connection. There are a lot of speakers who do not connect well with their audience. And sometimes they do what I call is under impacting, where they're kind of just talking kind of in front of an audience, holding their energy back. This also can just show up at work or in social situations, or you're just kind of holding in a bit and people don't feel you. It is also possible to over impact, to share, and your energy is so big, and eventually people are exhausted. And so want to be in flow. There's two ways to be in flow with connection, the vertical and the horizontal. The vertical is where we are connected with the divine, is where we're connected deeply with the earth and that flow, but also we're connected with ourselves, with our hearts, with our bodies. And this part of inner connection, the vertical as inner connection, is how we maintain authenticity, how we're true to ourselves, and how we can continue to return to ourselves as not just ourselves, but even the divine and the earth to fuel us. And by the way, this is part of how I often work with those who are more introverted, which used to include myself, to no longer get exhausted afterward because they stay in the flow of energy, both vertically and also horizontally with other people on this plane. So what that means is that when we speak and connect, our communication is an exchange of energy. We are receiving and tuning in. We receive our audiences. We receive the people to whom we're talking, and we transmit and we share that. And when we are giving and receiving, and when we are also working this way, we become like a rechargeable battery. And you're no longer exhausted because you're in flow of energy rather than the maybe anxiety or fight, flight, freeze, which shuts us down. And that contraction is actually what causes the exhaustion, not being around other people. So some of you might right now be having a bit of a moment. I first noticed this, I think in I don't know, 2010 or 11, when I was working with a client who said, I'm not just a better speaker now, I enjoy going to parties. And she was extremely introverted. And I started tracking this and noticing that, first of all, 90% of my clients called themselves more introverted or empaths or both. Uh, but but also that it started to create this level of transformation. And so now it's intentionally built in. There's also other things in connection, like eye contact techniques, including how to work with a room of hundreds or thousands so that every person there feels like you're really talking to them. So there's tangible technique and steps involved, but this essence of connection is that I've talked about is crucial. All right, so we've talked about the body and the voice, charisma and presence and connection, and the next is your message. There's a lot about crafting your message, and this is both with just like how would you tell someone what you do, or to really craft a workshop or craft a keynote. And one thing that's crucial with this is it has to have a high level of intentionality. What I mean is that a couple of things can happen, which is one, we might kind of want to hide and might compromise what we're doing and not speak to the power of it. Or unfortunately, there are a lot of people who teach speaking who teach things that are kind of manipulative and say, oh, you have to do it this way in order for people to pay attention. And there's kind of these subtle fear-based messagings put in, or you have to do this. And that is often a turnoff for those who are on the spiritual path because that is not an alignment. I should just speak off the cuff and speak intuitively and trust it. I'm going to be in flow. And that often doesn't work either. It doesn't mean it never does, but it's important to know that you can be strategic and have a method in place and not be manipulative. There are things to do so that you can be persuasive and compelling with your message. And, this is true both with those I've worked with who have been very experienced speakers, and we refine their talks so that the audience is just compelled at every moment, which is even more so, and those who are just starting off to understand here are the basics of things to do to make a difference. And one that I'd like to give to you is that you need a progressive structure. What that means is that a common error that people make is they say, well, I really want to help them. I'm going to give them a lot of information. And they share that, but it's not really structured very well. Maybe it's overload. You're probably a giver. And we give too much, though. People get overloaded and they don't know what to do with it. So a progressive structure, well, let's just give an example for that. One structure I really like, and different versions of it, but the basic of it is just simply called problem cause solution. The problem is, what's your audience experiencing? What do they feel? How do you tap into their needs, not what you think they need? What are they truly going through? Cause, why is it happening? And then here's a solution, things that you can do, but not trying to fix everything, because we know that you do important work in the world. And you can't just give someone the entire solution because it takes more time for them to learn that. So we have to structure that and move it forward so that one part of your talk compels them to want to listen to the next in a very organic way, because you're meeting them where they are and moving them forward. I just want to acknowledge that I'm giving a lot here. There's a lot of things to digest. And I encourage you to just breathe it in, take the time. You can rewatch parts if you want. And just to know that all of the things we're talking about take time. And one thing that takes the longest time is the fifth area, which is confidence. So we've talked about body language and vocal power, charisma and presence, connection, your message, crafting talks, and then confidence. One way that I like to talk about confidence is it's a habit. People often think that confidence is something that you have or you don't, or there's this terrible thing that I hear some coaches say. They say, well, you'll just always have nerves, you'll always have to live with it, and it's not true. Anyone who says that just doesn't know how to change it. And it's something I've had about a 95% success rate with my clients, including so many who came to me and said, I just have so many nerves and fear. I guess I'm hopeless. I say no. And then when it came around to the big talk, they said, wow, I wasn't nervous at all. I guess it worked. So let me tell you a little bit about how confidence works. There are different things that are really crucial. And the first one is mindset, because your mind and the beliefs it has about that fear of being judged, for example, or needing approval, or you have to be perfect, of which there isn't any such thing except perhaps the divine. These create interesting chains of reaction. So the belief, the thought there will cause a flood of emotion, which causes contraction in the body and will shut you down. So it will cause a contraction. And so one of the things we need to do is to start switching your mindset and how you approach it, so that you not just kind of look at one time, but you start to grow and cultivate a growth-based mindset where we continue to grow more into who we are and grow towards our evolution in the future. So there's the mind. There's also the body. And that contraction, we can begin with somatic embodied exercises, of which the one that I gave you before of relaxing, if you start to practice that regularly with also deep diaphragmatic breathing, it also is a way to cultivate presence and to start to retrain your nervous system. So there's the body, there's the mind. And another thing that's really important is to understand about competence. So often people have this kind of imposter syndrome. Oh, other people seem to speak so well, and I don't know what I'm doing, or it doesn't always land well, or I'm afraid I'm not going to do well. But once you actually build the skill set, you become competent and you see people responding to you differently. Now, I also think about this in terms of neuroplasticity. I'm a big fan of Joe Dispenza, and you can think of it as firing and rewiring. We are creating new neural pathways in the brain, new embodied habits. And once this becomes part of you and you've had a thorough series of training and you know what you're doing in a tangible way, because you've practiced it a little bit at a time is the way I teach it. Just a couple of things to practice every single day, just a few minutes a day. You start to create a new normal, a new way of being that you take with you wherever you go in the world. It's not about just when you go to speak, it's how do you walk through your life? And that level of competence, of feeling it, of knowing it, of transforming yourself so that you can become a better transformational vehicle is how you become more of who you truly are and let go of that old identity. And then you feel more in alignment and congruence when you go to speak in front of others because you know you are more embodying who you truly are and letting your light shine in the message. So we have these practices that you learn. And the other thing that is just crucial that you have to have before you go to speak, and when I say speak, by the way, this could be on a stage, it could be a workshop, it could be speaking online, it could be even just creating a video or speaking with a client, is you want to feel ready to be able to be that vehicle of transmission more fully. And to be ready, you need a powerful warm-up routine. Now, before I would go get on stage and perform, especially because I would do a one-man show where I'm playing 9 characters or sometimes even a lot more, is I would spend an hour getting myself ready. But I will still get myself ready before I speak on a summit, for example, and before I go on any stage to speak or just even create videos. I want to get my expressive instrument ready. And there are several things that you need in place to, because it should be a vocal warm-up, physical, mental, emotional, get yourself ready on every single and on every single level. So, and that's something also that I was happy to give as a gift. So there's a transformational speaker warm-up routine that you'll be able to download and to guide you through the steps in creating one that you can use whenever you speak and to kind of get your energy out of the state of it was from whatever you're doing during your day to be able to more fully inhabit that present moment to be a more transformational vehicle when you go to speak in any situation. So with that, let me say one other poem for you to kind of close out with. Your voice and presence are sacred soul gifts, yet you may have learned to constrict and suppress them, having received misbegotten messages that you are not enough, or you're too much, or you need to shrink your depths to fit within the confines of boxed-in beliefs and narrow-minded expectations. And when you speak, your voice reflects only a fragment of your vast totality. You are unseen. The pain of invisibility caused in part by your own contracting and withholding. Nonetheless, when alone or in nature, you may sense your unlimited expanse, the immensity beyond the small self, patiently waiting to exclaim and express, to connect and to ignite, to shine. Hear this now. We can handle all of you. Your expansive expression is encouraged and invited. And your true voice, the voice of presence, awaits you.
Wow, thank you so much, Jonathan. That was so powerful and beautiful presentation, and so many golden nuggets there for all of us to listen again and again, because Yeah, a lot. So,
Thank you. It was a joy to come and share.
yeah. And now, as we are also still taking in that poem, just you felt it really touched deeply both of those poems, the one you started with and this one. So, as people are most likely also feeling into that poem, I just want to ask if there is any final message that you want to share about public speaking as a path of transformation that you'd like to leave the audience with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing I want to say is don't go it alone, is that you can take a very slow path. You can join Toastmasters where they don't really train you, but you can do it, or you can just stumble through it. But otherwise, find someone you resonate with, who you align with, and get training to transform far more quickly.
Mm,
So, and if anything I said calls to you, want to learn more, when you sign up for the speaker warm up, I don't send a bunch of salesy stuff, but will be able to follow up with me as well and hear about things that are upcoming. I'm happy to refer you to someone else if your goals don't match what I do. But no matter what, is just allow yourself to get supported to step more fully into your light, not just for you, not just for your business, but because the world needs it. And that's the truth.
that's right. And it very much aligns. Together we shine brighter, and we are not meant to do this journey alone. So I love that you encourage people to find the support, because that is also easy. It makes the path easier when you can get that support and encouragement as well on your path. So thank you for all the work that you do in the world and your time today and this beautiful and powerful presentation you shared with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
And thank you for tuning in to the Accelerate Ascension Summit session. If you enjoyed this, give it thumbs up. And now it's time to share, shine, and succeed. Until next time, bye for now.